this month's theme is wonder. And one of the things when we often think of wonder, we can think of puzzlement, but when I think of wonder, I always think of the seven wonders of the world. And I'm always amused because when you actually think of the seven wonders of the world, they're actually from 2,000 years ago. And they were basically Greeks who just wandered around the Eastern Mediterranean and selected the seven best things. And you know what? Of all those things, only one of them still exists. And that's the pyramids in Egypt, the pyramids of Gaza. But there was the story I want to tell is about this class who decided they want to come up with another seven wonders of the world. And so they thought, what do we have now? And so they looked all over the world, and they looked all back through the last 2,500 years and came up with the wonders of the world. And could you put the first slide up, please, Greg? So the first one is the Colosseum in Rome. And that was where they held big sporting events. And some of them were quite violent, but some of them were like chariot races, and that's a really old building. And that's the only one of the new wonders of the world that I've been to. Who else has been to that one? Wow, you're a well-traveled group. So we'll see how it goes as we go through the other seven. Have any of the children been to Rome? It's really worth seeing. It's amazing. And you know what? That's about 2,000 years old, and we still design a lot of sports stadiums in a very similar manner. They found a really good way of doing things, and we've only slightly improved upon it. We haven't really changed it that much. So the second one's the Great Wall of China. There's a rumor that who's been there? Okay, show-offs. Yeah, there's people have been there. So I'll tell you what, children, if you see the people putting up their hand and you want to know more about them, go and ask them, because I'm going to. I want to prove they really went there. I want photographs with you there. And then the third one is the Taj Mahal in India. Okay, who's been there? Oh, yep. I am so jealous. It must be. And then the fourth one is Christ the Redeemer in Brazil, which is Rio de Janeiro. Yeah, people have been there. I'm going to check in you. I can't believe you've been to it. And then the fifth one's Machu Picchu in Peru. I'd love to go there. It looks like an amazing place. And these are little old towns, and that's built way up in the Andes, which are these really high mountains. How on earth they were ever able to build it up there is just incredible. And then the sixth one, I had never heard of this one, but I've seen the picture. Chichen Itza in Mexico. Who's been there? And I'm going to have a test at the end. And then the final one is Petra of Jordan. And you might have seen that. If any of you have seen the Indiana Jones movies, this was in one of the Indiana Jones movies. I think the second one, was it? Third one?
The Eiffel Tower.
What's that?
How'd they forget the Eiffel Tower?
I guess it's just not wonderful enough. I don't know. Well, this is just how they picked them. So other people probably picked their own ones. But, one of the students in the same class, and this is a story from Joy Garrison Wasson, they came up with that list of all these wonders of the world. You can stop the slide now, Greg. And one of the students was having a really trouble coming up with the list, and the teacher said, why are you having so much difficulty coming up with your wonders of the world? And he said, well, there's so many of them. And he said, well, have you got a list? She said, well, I've got 7, but there's more I want to add. And he said, well, what are they? He said, well, I think my wonders of the world are my sight, my hearing, my taste, my smell, my ability to touch, my ability to laugh, and my ability to love. And the whole class was silent at that point. They're like, oh. Because I think so often, the ancient wonders of the world and these ones are all man-made. A lot of them are man-made structures, and we forget what evolution has produced in us. The miracle that we are as people with our sights, with our tastes, with our creativity. And so I think when we start thinking of wonder, we need to think about the wonderful things that people are and communities like this are.
In preparation for this reflection on the theme of wonder, I consulted a book titled Miracles, Wonder and Meaning in World Religions by David Weddell, a now retired professor of religion. This book is a study of miracles and the meanings assigned to them in 5 religious traditions: Hinduism, Judaism, Buddhism, Islam, and Christianity. I'd like to tell you a bit about what I learned from it. In this age, when science can explain almost any event as the result of observable forces, it may seem ridiculous to believe in miracles, but many religions were founded on accounts of miraculous events, and by the author's calculation, half of the world's population believe in miracles of some kind. Among other things, miracle stories support the belief that there is a reality that transcends in some form, transcends this world and manifests its power by altering material conditions. Belief in the transcendent in some form is basic to most religions, and miracles are often cited as proof of that belief. The book's working definition of a miracle is an event of transcendent power that arouses wonder and carries religious significance for those who witness it or hear or read about it. The chapters in the book are subtitled for the primary sign of transcendent reality that miracles tend to deliver in each of the 5 religious traditions included. For Hinduism, the subtitle is Signs of Spiritual Liberation. Miracle stories in the Hindu tradition support the hope that humans are not fully constrained by laws of nature or demands of karma. They shatter the illusion that the world and our destinies within it are permanent and signify a way to liberate the self from attachment to this world. The subtitle for Judaism is Signs of Covenant. Miracle stories in Jewish tradition confirm the authority of divine revelation, defeat persecutors of the Jewish people, and demonstrate God's faithfulness to his covenant with Israel. However, there is ambivalence toward divine interventions, especially since the Holocaust, to avoid dependence on divine assistance and neglect of the covenantal duties of Jews to pursue justice, mercy, and peace in an imperfect world. For Buddhism, the subtitle is Signs of Transcendent Wisdom. In most Buddhist traditions, miracle stories demonstrate the truth of Buddha's primary teaching, that everything, including the order of nature and the identity of self, is impermanent, that there is emptiness at the heart of being. The chapter on Islam is subtitled Signs of Divine Authority. For many Muslims, the only miracle in the present age was the revelation of the Quran to the illiterate prophet Muhammad. But in some types of Islam, miracles may also be signs of authority of imams as guardians of the esoteric meaning of the Quran. The subtitle for Christianity is Signs of Divine Presence. For Christians, the primary manifestation of God is Jesus Christ, who is thought to have performed many miracles of healing on behalf of those who believed in him. Miracles in Christian tradition enact compassion for the weak and powerless, defend justice, and provide hope for everlasting life after death. In each chapter of the book, the author described objections to belief in miracles on religious grounds within each faith tradition. I mentioned that for Judaism, but faithful dissent to belief in miracles exists within the other faiths as well. I was initially interested in this book because I could see, just from looking at the table of contents, why I continue to find myself drawn to Christianity rather than to the other religions addressed in the book. While I would likely fall into the camp of Christians who don't necessarily believe in miracles, if I had to choose what type of sign I would most want from a religion, it would be divine presence, rather than spiritual liberation, covenant with God, divine wisdom, or divine authority. I want to know that there is a divine being, or God, that is with me, that I'm not alone. So why do I attend a Unitarian Universalist fellowship which doesn't promise me that God is with me instead of a Christian church, which would? Some of you may have heard me try to answer this question before, and here's a partial reason. Our 7 principles provide me with a clear and simple moral code. and Unitarian Universalism challenges me to be a better person in the world in a way that feels realistic. I'd like to end with a quote I came across by Albert Einstein about miracles. There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle.
Well, just to prove that miracles are real, despite Barbie and I not coordinating this, I'm going to start with a story about Albert Einstein. In 1930, the Rabbi Herbert Goldstein, a prominent Jewish leader, sent a telegram to scientist Albert Einstein, and the Rabbi did not waste words. He said, "Do you believe in God? Answer paid, 50 words or less." The telegram was prompted by this basically public altercation that arose when Einstein published a statement referring to himself as religious. And that caused much consternation amongst many of Einstein's fellow scientists. And Einstein's reply to the telegram from the rabbi was, "I lean towards the type of God who reveals himself in the harmony of all that exists. I do not believe in a God who concerns himself with the fate and doings of mankind." And for those of you who are counting, that's 35 words. What is even more inspiring to me and gives a kind of deeper insight to the religious philosophy of probably the greatest scientist of the 20th century is the original statement that caused the constellation. It says, this is Albert Einstein. He says, "The most beautiful emotion we can experience is the mysterious. It's the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of all true art and science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead, a snuffed out candle. To sense that being anything which can be experienced there is something in our minds that cannot grasp, whose beauty reaches us only indirectly, this is religion. In this sense, and in this sense only, I am a devoutly religious man." Those are the words of Albert Einstein. And I love that phrase that the spark of faith starts with awe. The spark of faith starts with awe. It begins with that mixture of wonder and awe that many human beings feel towards mystery, towards those things that we do not understand. And that mystery that kind of envelops us when we consider beauty and the complexity of nature. We have looked at nature, we looked at the universe, we looked at the stars, the skies, we look at a rainbow, we look at the waves in the ocean, and we feel this sense of where is that power, where is that creative force coming from? Maybe not every time we look at it, but I think most of us can relate to that at some degree. But awe only becomes faith when we ascribe some meaning to that mystery. So I invite you to consider this question. Do you consider yourself to be a devoutly religious person? Do you consider yourself to be a devoutly religious person? Maybe along the lines of what Einstein says, maybe along the lines of what Barbie said. Maybe you have your own thoughts in the matter. But I think that's a question. And I also invite you to take to that next step. Why or why not? Why do you consider yourself a devoutly religious person? Or why do you not consider yourself a devoutly religious person? And I know you're probably thinking, I wish he hadn't used the word devout. I could have gone there if it hadn't been for that devout, but I want you to really think of that, devoutly religious. You're devoted to your religion. In the Soul Matters small group packet for this month in Wonder, there's this statement. I don't know who the author is, it's just in the packet. It says, "Wonder and its cousin awe reduces us in order to make room for something more than our self-centered needs, more than our self-centered worries and wants. With our narcissism shrunk down to a reasonable size, it becomes possible to notice that we are not the only ones up there on the stage." It's probably good for me to remember that right now. And there's a difference between awe and wonder, and there's a lot of different opinions, and this is my opinion, so take it with the appropriate dose of salt. It says, the difference between awe and wonder is that the awe is a feeling of reverence with some anxiety or worry, while wonder is something that just causes amazement or marvel or surprise. And wonder and awe can make us feel small while we look at the universe, whether we look at the forces of evolution, whether we look at the world that we live in. But if we are less self-aware about maybe that's demeaning who I am, this can be positive because it can mean that we feel connected to the universe at large and to the world and all life at large. And I wonder if our challenge with wonder and awe is not about that we don't notice it, but we rush on beyond it. We don't stop and savor it. We can eat food, we can taste food, or we can savor food. And then probably today we'll do all three of those things, maybe even with the same meal. I invite us to try and savor it. Next time you experience a hint of awe, next time you experience a hint of wonder, stop, take the time, embrace it. Where is that leading you? Where does that wonder, that surprise that hits you, where that awe, which maybe triggers some anxiety or worry in you, where does that take us? I think that is the spark of awe that Einstein was talking about as a religious person. And I know worry and accomplishment and judgment can all get in the way. And Rachel Carson is a writer who says this: one way to open our eyes to awe and wonder is to ask ourselves, what if I've never seen this before? And what if I knew I would never see it again? And I think the first question, what if I've never seen this before? It opens up that curiosity. Do we react to that with judgment, or do we react to it with curiosity? And I think it's inviting, and we really want to explore wonder and awe. We explore it with curiosity. And that, what if I knew I would never see it again? I think that invites us to savor it, to really take the time to embrace it and really explore it, meditate on it, pray on it, take a walk with it. So I invite you to think of what strategy or habit might help you take on practices that would help wonder and awe linger in your life. And a sense of wonder can overwhelm us with a fearful awe, but we can stay with it and honor the humility it can inspire within us and savor the feeling of that vastness that comes with wonder and awe. Then we can see our part in this universe that we are connected to. And I remind you of our first source. We always talk about 7 principles. We have 6 sources, and the first source is direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces that create and uphold life. And I think if we can savor wonder, savor awe, humbled by it but not demeaned by it, we can renew our spirits and open ourselves to the creative forces that make the universe what it is.